From Romain Grosjean getting to drive for Mercedes to Max vs Lewis round 4, here are the 5 biggest talking points ahead of the Spanish Grand Prix. It was announced on Wednesday that Romain Grosjean will get to drive the Mercedes on the weekend of the French Grand Prix. For those who don't know, here's a quick summary. After Romain Grosjean's crash in the Bahrain Grand Prix last year, it was likely that that would have been his final time in an F1 car. Though Toto Wolff, with whom Romain Grosjean is great friends with, told the media that that can't be Romain's last time in a F1 car and talked about a possible private test for Grosjean in a Mercedes car. And Toto Wolff has kept his promise, but not only will Grosjean get to drive the 2019 championship-winning W10 Mercedes, he will get to drive that car on the race weekend of the French Grand Prix, Grosjean's home country, to do some demonstration laps. A simply great gesture from Mercedes, but it doesn't end there. 2 days later, Grosjean will get to drive the W10 again in a private one-off day test organized by Mercedes. Another big talking point ahead of the Spanish Grand Prix race weekend is Lando Norris. What an incredible first 3 races of the season he has had, probably his best series of races in his Formula 1 career. He started off with an awesome P4 finish at the Bahrain Grand Prix, then went one better for the Italian Grand Prix in Imola, and last time out in Portugal, he had a great race to finish in P5 and now sitting 3rd place of the championship. His starts, launches, safety car restarts, overtakes and tire management were perfect over these last few races, and you can clearly see that Lando has taken a huge step forward this year. We predicted Daniel to get the better of him, but looking at the first 3 races, Daniel will have a hell of a job to firstly even match Lando and secondly eventually beat him. Lando is in the form of his life, and with positive momentum and a great McLaren car, it will be interesting to see if he can continue this positive trend. Though as he said himself yesterday, one small thing could go wrong and your whole race weekend is finished. Lando is also wary of the threat of the other midfield teams, which brings me to the next topic. The midfield battle continues to be spicy and is spicing up quite a bit. McLaren and Ferrari are at the front of the midfield group, at least that was the case in the first 2 races. But coming into Portimao, Alpine came in with some fresh upgrades which worked well for them as they finished in P7 and 8 respectively to earn their first double points finish of the season. They have another few upgrades coming in for the Spanish Grand Prix. It will be great to see if they actually work, as the track here gives you a great representation of where each team stand in the pecking order, as this track has a bit of everything. Portimao was a one-off with a low grip track and a track that is made for MotoGP. Coming into Spain, Sebastian Vettel will also have the new upgrade package that Lance Stroll had in Portimao. Sebastian Vettel had a great weekend in Portimao, so he will be expecting to fight further up the grid in Spain this weekend and to score his first points of the season. With AlphaTauri falling back a bit, this midfield battle will be great to watch once again. And now we come to Red Bull versus Mercedes, but to an on-track story. As you might have seen, Red Bull has recruited 6 Mercedes employees to their new powertrain foundation. As Honda is leaving Formula 1 after this year, Red Bull opted to stick with the current Honda engine until 2025 when the new engine rules come in. From 2025 onwards, they will build their own engines. Red Bull have bought Honda's engines till 2024 and built a new company, the Red Bull Technology, to maintain their engine technology at their base in Milton Keynes. Now, Red Bull were quite active off-track and recruited 6 high-value team members from Mercedes' engine department. So Red Bull are making the moves off-track to secure a bright future. Ever since the new rules changes in 2014, the Mercedes engine was the best and the one to beat. Mercedes was and is such a successful team, and for Red Bull to employ these people is a great move by them and shows that this title race this year and the coming years might even go down to movements off track. That leaves me with one final point to talk about ahead of the Spanish Grand Prix. Max versus Lewis round 4. Lewis Hamilton comes into Spain with an 8-point advantage at the top after winning the opening race in Bahrain and the last race in Portimao and finishing second to Max Verstappen in Imola. Max Verstappen is just 8 points behind him in the standings. The first 3 races have already shown us how close this season will be and that it will go down to the final tiniest of margins, such as track limits. Track limits have become a big talking point over the last few years, and they continue to do so in the first 3 races of this year. In the first race, Max Verstappen had to give his position back to Lewis, and last time out in Portimao, track limits prevented Max from taking pole and eventually the fastest lap in the race, which might also be hugely important come the end of the season in Abu Dhabi. Red Bull now have a car that is capable of winning every race, and they, and especially Max Verstappen, know that. But Max has stayed relatively calm and seems to be the calmest he's been over the last couple of years, which is a good sign. But the pressure might start to come to him, as we saw in Portimao, pushing the car to beat Mercedes but eventually having to lose out because of track limits. Hamilton looks as relaxed and focused as ever too, and seems to be in top form currently, as you'd expect. And now, we and Max start to see more and more how good Lewis actually is. Lewis has won the last 4 races in Spain, but the race before that in 2016 was obviously Max's race, which he won. Red Bull though now seem to have a car that can challenge the Mercedes, and with Paris making gains and might being in the fight with the Mercedes and Max, we can predict another great battle between Mercedes and Red Bull, and especially Max and Lewis. And after the Spanish Grand Prix, we will likely know where each of the two teams stand and what their strengths and weaknesses are, because as I said, Spain is a track which has a bit of everything, and being 4 races down after this week's race, we will have a better picture of the pecking order. And obviously not to forget, it's Fernando Alonso's and Carlos Sainz's home race of this Formula 1 season at the Spanish Grand Prix, and with the new Turn 10 layout for the Spanish Grand Prix race weekend can begin. So that will be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and now on to the Spanish Grand Prix. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.